Welcome. It is Cooper Mays. I'm Dave Hooker, and we've got a lot to get to. Spring practice, and Cooper's looking fresh out of that spring practice. That first practice of the season, it is over with. So we want to make sure that you hear Cooper each and every week. Thanks to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Get a preview of spring practice. Just hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed and turn your notifications on so you can hear from Coop. One down, Coop. I guess, 14 more to go? Do you get 15 spring practices, or have you counted them yet?
I don't count them up, but I think it's 15. So
How
it should equal out to 14.
physically, how good are you feeling? I would think very good after the injury early in the season. You've been good since.
Yeah, no, I feel pretty good. You know, normal bangs and bruises from just being old, but
Yep.
we're pretty fresh.
Let me ask you about something that I've debated with media members for years. And I want to get to a couple of guys, Andre Kerrigan, Lance Hurd, I want to ask you about. But first, I've debated with media members, does it help when you play really well in a bowl game and you're coming off positive momentum? There on the flip side, you also kind of want to bounce back when you don't play well in the bowl game. I guess the question is, Coop, do you think a bowl game really affects the following season?
Um, Probably not a normal bowl game. No, I mean, I guess it's a little bit of motivation added in, but in actuality, no, it wouldn't affect.
So that the positive carryover maybe from, let me see if I figure out what you're saying. The positive carryover or negative carryover from, let's say, a college football playoff run is different than a bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say so. You know, I would say coming off of going to the playoff will probably be a little bit better than being in a normal bowl game as far as momentum, I guess. But all that stuff is fake, so it doesn't really matter.
What do you mean? What do you mean by fake?
I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I think 7 months after winning a game doesn't really affect. Like, I don't think that after 7 months, I'd probably say the work that you put in affects it more than how you actually were last year. I've been on teams that were really good one year and then really not as good the next year. So I mean, there was a lot of positive, I don't know what you call it, momentum, I guess, from 2019 to 2020 for the Vols, but we didn't have the greatest season in 2020. So it, I guess it only is right if it proves right, just happenstance wise. But no, I don't think it really means much.
Yeah, I tend to think of a week's work of January lifting has about as much of an effect on the upcoming season as a bowl game. I understand that to motivate you if things didn't go well. I think that's happened before, but I think it depends on how each team handles it. And you guys have the maturity to handle the positives from that bowl game and not rest on your laurels. A couple of guys I wanted to ask you about that should be playing to your left, we think, and that is one, Andre Currick. Let's start at left guard. Your thoughts on the offseason that he's had?
Yeah, Andre's a great guy. We talked about it before. I think like just he doesn't remind me of me because he's my same age or whatever. But me and him are pretty similar, and I like the style of play that he has, and excited to see what how that shakes out this year.
What do you think he learned in his first full year of being a Vol?
Just kind of just learning the system was the first big step for him because he's a guy that transferred from Texas after being there for 4 years, 3 or 4 years. So that was the first big step is learning the system through and through, and I think he's done a good job of continuing that on, and he'll only get better from here.
Yep. And I think there was pressure on him too. I wonder if have you talked to any of the transfers about when they come in? People expect them to play right away, which can be a little unfair. How much pressure do you think are on transfers?
It kind of just depends on the situation. A lot of kids' situations are a lot different than others, and I think there's a lot of pressure coming from the fact that usually, when you're transferring from another place, you're trying to have a fresh start and, you're trying to put your best foot forward in a new place and kind of secure your role. So I'm sure it's definitely not easy. That's for sure.
No, absolutely. Another guy that it's not going to be easy for is going to be Lance Hurd. So, want to discuss his transition from LSU to Tennessee for a moment. I do want to remind everybody the Fall Report with Cooper Mays is brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Somehow we're about to enter year number 3, Cooper. What in the world has happened? But with City Heating and Air Conditioning, over 50 years, integrity matters right there in East Tennessee. They'll take care of you anywhere in the Knoxville area. Lance Hurd is not small.
No, he's not that.
I mean, does he stand out in a group of big dudes anyway?
Yeah, for sure. He's one of those guys. He's kind of built in a certain kind of like Darnell as far as how big he is, and he's kind of more top heavy. He's just a big guy. So, very well built for the sport.
How much does that transfer to the weight room, you think?
Oh, big time. I mean, everybody talks about you got to get strong, but kind of at the end of the day, a lot of times mass moves mass. If you're decently athletic and understand how to use your body, you got a big advantage right there automatically.
So he was a freshman at LSU, so he'd be a sophomore this year. But he's one of the bigger guys. Where does he rank among some of the players you have in terms of strength?
Strength? Oh, I'm sure he's right up there. A lot of us all lift separately, so I don't know exactly who's hitting what numbers all the time, but guys like that definitely aren't short on strength.
What is the greatest challenge? Because you didn't have to adapt to a Josh Heupel offense as a transfer or even as a freshman, but you did have to adapt midway through your career. What's the greatest challenge of adapting to a Josh Heupel offense?
Definitely the speed of everything. It's pretty obvious like what we do, with speed and our tempo and everything. But the flip side of that is everything in your mind has to be sped up by hundreds of percent. So where most people are taking 20, 25 seconds, whatever, to get lined up and snap the ball, we're taking, way less than that, maybe 5 to 10. As soon as the ball snapped, we're usually already up on the ball calling the play. So you've got to be a really smart player and understand how to put whatever's going on in your mind. You got to be able to put it behind you. You can't be worried about what happened last play or how tired you are or whatever. You've got to go ahead and get into the next play and get it done at the best you can.
I'm going to ask what may be a dumb question. I feel like you probably come away from these shows every once in a while saying, Dave, ask another dumb question, and that's fine. But what happens if one guy is having trouble with the tempo in practice? Does everything stop to bring him up to speed? Do you say get that H off the field? I mean, how does that work? And don't single anybody out, but just how does that work if somebody's having trouble with the tempo?
Well, I mean, I'll single somebody else out, but it's myself. I'm the only one that can. So basically, it kind of shakes out that nobody. I don't know. It just doesn't ever happen like that. Everybody's miserable and tired out there. So like you kind of just it just kind of happens for you. And plus, you want to play football. Like you don't want to be on the bench. So you figure out a way to deal with it, and everybody kind of just falls in line. Like if everybody around you is doing something, you're not. I mean, if you're built the right way, you're not going to be the one that slacks and pulls everybody behind. But theoretically, if anybody was going slow, the only person that could stop the tempo down was me. So
that's true. Okay, so you have a responsibility to keep it rolling. I think people point to the quarterback, but Coop's got to keep the train rolling down the track, right?
Yeah, I'm the one who sets the tempo usually, or not usually. I am the one.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I mean, it plays into what I do. Center tells everybody what to do anyway, so you might as well just add in that factor of it. I don't know. I like being in control of all the stuff.
I gotcha. My wife calls me a control freak as well. So, um, but I'm wondering, you play. I'm not saying that right tackle is not a thinking man's position, or that the X receiver is not a thinking man's position, but you and the quarterback in particular, the thinking man's position. So when you're running tempo, how challenging is it, or was it initially, to make sure your thoughts are clear and you're not just trying to move faster for the sake of moving faster?
I mean, it takes a while for it to click for sure. It's just like I was kind of saying with the transfers and everything, your process gets sped up exponentially. So you sit there and don't really actually you don't sit there. You don't have any time to sit there. You don't have any time to think. So it just becomes kind of habit after a while. Like I said, if everybody's doing one thing, then even if it seems kind of asinine and crazy, you can still get with it just because everybody else makes it seem normal. So um, you kind of just got to figure out a way, and that kind of clicks in everybody's head. I'm not sure everybody does the same process that I do, but um, anytime I get a break, like where we're not just busting out the call on the play as soon as I get down the ball, like if I'm sitting there waiting, I'll go ahead and I know the whole game plan kind of in my head, so I can basically kind of run through the few plays that I feel like are going to come up next, and I can go ahead and figure out the calls based on what front they're in, seeing where they're lined up and everything. So I kind of have a couple of plays in my head where I've already made the call and kind of just have already figured out the call. If they call this, I know the call already. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah. I'm wondering, with the tempo and everything that goes with it, is it fair to expect someone to have an impact as a transfer on the offensive line, such as Carrick last year or Hurd this year? Is that a fair expectation for fans?
Yeah, I mean, of course. You know, I think, I mean, if you look at it, people do in the NFL all the time. So you look at in the NFL, people do it midweek sometimes.
It's true. Can you imagine switching teams midweek?
I couldn't, but I mean, if you think about people, I mean, look at Josh Dobbs last year. I mean, he hit multiple teams up throughout the year and started games for multiple teams, won games for multiple teams all throughout the year. I mean, he doesn't even know. I mean, much less the system. He doesn't know the teammates. He doesn't know everybody's name.
Yeah.
So, I mean, expectations are everywhere. We have more on ourselves than anybody puts on us, I'm sure. So like I said, all that stuff outside the building, outside yourself and your family, your coaches, all that stuff doesn't really matter. We're all on a journey here. And, if you're worried about what other people are thinking, then you're wasting time.
No, you're right. Um, with with the tempo and all that we've talked about, what do you expect out of Hurd, and the size and the ability that he has? What do you expect out of him this fall as a leader?
Oh man, I just expect him to be a good teammate, show up and do his part. I don't really know exactly what anything looks like for him. I haven't really even seen him play really anything. So I don't have any expectations for anybody other than to just be the same guy every day.
How would you describe the first practice? Having that first practice on your belt, just the morale, all that good stuff.
Oh, really good. I think everybody's ready to get out there and do stuff, do their jobs, and see how much they've gotten better. I think spring's a huge time to take progress and take steps forward in your game. So, I mean, if you're not excited for the opportunity, then it's not a good time for you.
So I think at this point, a lot of people think Hurd's going to play left tackle and John Campbell could play right tackle. Is that what you've seen so far, or are you guys still toying around and messing with stuff?
If you know Coach Ellerby and kind of watched the Vols over the past few years, it kind of everything kind of gets shaken up sometimes. So I'm sure there's a lot of different combinations that will end up rotating through the next year. Hopefully not, but you never really know how it'll shake out.
Yeah, that's weird for me because I've always known coaches that wanted to stick with the starting five if they could from year to year and keep guys at at the same position they were the previous year. How different is that for you? Because we've seen left tackle go to right tackle a couple of years in a row. We've seen a lot of guys moved around. How different is that for you than what you were used to previously?
Oh man, I see. I've my whole time in college, I've been a part of O lines that kind of just had people filling in spots at a lot of different places because we've had guys that can do it and people that are talented enough to fill those roles in the two deep. So that's I don't know. It's not different for me because I've been a part of it. It's the same, but it is. I'm sure it's hard for some folks. I mean, obviously, I don't have to switch sides. There is no switching sides for me, so that doesn't really affect me much. But I'm sure the folks that are doing it, I'm sure it's a lot of mental gymnastics.
Switching sides, I guess, would put you at defensive tackle.
Yeah, that would be about it.
Could you could you still play a little defensive tackle if you needed to?
Dude, I've told everybody this, and everybody, I don't know. Let me just stop. I don't know.
No, I want to hit. You can't do that.
Dude, I can play defense. I promise you. I promise you I can go out there and play a couple plays and do okay. I don't know if I'd have a sack or anything, but I'd be fine. I would be able to I would fend for myself. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'd be great, but I definitely could do a serviceable and solid job.
Wow. So would you?
Coach Pruitt and them told me I could play defense if I wanted to. So
So would you be a two-way player?
no, I'm not. No. I can barely do offense with our tempo as is. No.
If it wasn't for y'all's tempo, could you be a two-way player?
Definitely not. I only did that in high school because like you can get away with not using full effort every play and still do really good. So that's the difference. In college, like first of all, our tempo makes you super tired, but
Oh
then
yeah.
you can't save any like every play is like 100% do like everything 100% strain. So it doesn't bode well for playing a long amount of time as far as like being on the field for continuous time.
So this isn't going to happen, but it's fun to talk about. So if they came to you and they said, "Coop, we got a problem. We got to have a defensive tackle." Uh, it would take you an off season, a week, or you would be ready to run in there right away to be ready to play defensive tackle.
I think if they gave me like a week, I could be okay. My dad was starting at D tackle, I think during fall camp, during
Mhm.
his redshirt sophomore year, and then ended up switching because they had no guards. I think he was the only person that they knew that had played offensive line in high school. So they switched him from a starting defensive tackle spot to a starting guard spot like a month before the season. He did that. So I don't know.
I don't think that's going to happen to you. I
No,
see.
probably not.
Yeah, I see first team all SEC. I've already got my ballot filled out for SEC Media Days. I'm ready to go with that. I see Hall of Fame center leading the Dallas Cowboys, my favorite team, to like 3 Super Bowls. That's what I see. I don't see defensive tackle in your future. I see a lot of great things, Coop. That's just not one of
To each their own.
them. Scooper Mays. I'm Dave Hooker. The Vol Report brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Integrity matters.